You probably think of Hawaii's volcanoes as pointed cones ready to explode and destroy everything in apocalyptic movie style. To debunk this misconception, we analyzed dozens of academic studies and field records on effusive eruptions and hotspots. The real secret behind this geological Swiss cheese begins right in the middle of a moving tectonic plate. Common sense tells us that the Hawaiian Islands should behave like the vast majority of other volcanoes we know around the world, like those that form the dreaded Pacific Ring of Fire, where the land collides or splits with immense violence. And this logic makes perfect sense when we look at the history of our planet, but the Hawaiian Islands decided to break all the rules of the game and were mysteriously born right in the middle of a tectonic plate. Imagine you are looking at a giant factory conveyor belt that moves extremely slowly and steadily. This giant conveyor belt is the Pacific Plate, and just below it there is a fixed crack in the Earth's mantle that acts like a cosmic blowtorch, injecting heat upwards. Scientists recently discovered that this blowtorch is leaking pure gold directly from the core of our planet, but I'll talk about that later. This hot spot spews molten magma nonstop, while the large conveyor belt of rock slides over it at microscopic speed. To give you a clear idea of how slow this movement is, the plate moves only about 7 centimeters per year, which is practically the same speed at which your fingernails grow. As this conveyor belt advances over the fixed heat source, a new island is created right behind the other in a perfect line, leaving the older islands behind while new ones are born from absolutely nothing. You continue watching this video because understanding how this conveyor belt works reveals the hidden danger beneath our feet. How do we know this if we've never gone down there to look closely? Geologists can track this timeline by measuring the age of each island, and the result is impressive. But there's a problem. If Hawaii is positioned on top of such an absurd and bizarre heat source, why don't the eruptions there destroy the planet all at once? It is precisely this unexpected calm that hides the biggest misunderstanding in the history of science, making people believe in a danger that simply doesn't exist in the way they tell us. After all, what would really happen if you were walking on these islands during a major volcanic eruption? Pay attention to this. Almost everyone grew up watching apocalyptic Hollywood movies where volcanoes erupt with nuclear force, spewing black clouds of ash that blanket the sky and destroy entire cities in seconds. People think Hawaii is going to become a scene of total destruction at any moment. The reality is completely different and much more fascinating. Kilauea and the other giants of the archipelago are classified as effusive eruption volcanoes. The magma that rises from the Earth's mantle through this hotspot has a very low silica content, which makes the lava incredibly liquid, almost like very hot pancake syrup or thick motor oil. Because the trapped gas can escape this mixture with extreme ease, the internal pressure never increases to the point of generating a catastrophic detonation. Therefore, instead of a cinematic and terrifying explosion, the lava simply flows gently and predictably, creating red rivers that advance through the forest. The process is so slow and safe that photographers and tourists can get within a few meters to capture the spectacle without taking any silly risks. All this liquid calm shapes the surface in a way that defies the classic image everyone has of a volcano. How does this molten mass manage to travel distances equivalent to several miles before finally cooling and turning to rock? This molten, superfluid mass travels distances equivalent to several miles before finally cooling and turning to rock because its temperature is absurdly high and it encounters no barriers to stop it. When we think of a volcano, the image that comes to everyone's mind is that perfect pointed cone, identical to Mount Fuji in Japan, or Mount St. Helens in the United States. People think Hawaii is full of these immense, sharp mountains that touch the clouds. But that's not what you're thinking. The volcanoes there belong to a completely different category called shield volcanoes. Because Hawaiian lava is very liquid, it cannot accumulate at the top to create tall, steep walls immediately after emerging from the earth. Instead, it spreads smoothly in all directions before hardening. The end result of this continuous process is not a pointed stone pyramid, but a gigantic structure, extremely wide and with such a slight slope that it is barely noticeable when climbing. If you could look at these structures from above, you would see that they resemble the exact shape of a medieval warrior's shield lying on the ground. The largest of them is Mauna Loa, and its size is something difficult to realistically imagine. If we measure this giant from its base on the ocean floor to its peak on the surface, it is much taller than Mount Everest. The base of Mauna Loa is so absurdly massive that it occupies half of the entire coastline of the Big Island. To put this on a scale that our brains can understand, the width of this single volcano is greater than the distance of a car trip between New York City and Philadelphia. Scientists recently discovered a startling detail about the weight of this mountain crushing the Earth's crust. I'll talk more about that in a moment. All this colossal mass pushes the seabed down because of its infinite weight. If you're enjoying this topic, subscribe to discover more interesting facts like this one. Understanding the magnitude of these shield mountains helps you realize the true force that shapes our planet to this day. How did this happen? All this visual tranquility and smooth shield-like shape hides a fascinating and dangerous secret right beneath the feet of those who visit the national park. All that solid black rock that tourists tread on with such confidence conceals a mysterious network that seems to have come straight out of a science fiction story. How can this seemingly firm and massive surface deceive so many people? Imagine we go outside, climb onto one of those immense fields of dark volcanic rock, and start walking. The ground beneath your boots feels like the most solid and resilient thing in the world, as if it were a single block of granite reaching all the way to the center of the earth. But the reality is that the subsoil of Hawaii functions like a giant Swiss cheese, and its interior is frighteningly hollow. This fascinating phenomenon occurs because of the creation of lava tubes. When that river of liquid, boiling lava flows down the slopes of the shield volcano, the sides and top of the river come into contact with the cold air of the atmosphere. This outer layer cools rapidly and hardens, creating a crust of solid black rock that acts as a perfect protective roof. Meanwhile, just below this roof, the red lava continues to superheat and flows at very high speed, exactly like water flowing through a plumbing pipe in an American house. When the eruption finally ends and the magma supply from the hotspot runs out, the interior of this rock pipe empties completely. The result is miles of completely empty caves and tunnels hidden right beneath the feet of unsuspecting tourists. The size of some of these tunnels is so enormous that you could easily drive a fire truck inside them without touching the ceiling. There's one such cave called Kazumura that has an impressive length of over 40 miles. To visualize that size in your mind, that distance is greater than the distance of a full traditional Boston Marathon. Remember I said that the Earth's core is leaking pure gold from the Hawaiian hotspot. Scientists collected samples of gases and rocks deep inside these same lava tubes and found traces of heavy chemical elements that should be trapped in the planet's heart, proving that the mantle's torch is directly connected to the deepest and richest parts of the world. How does this work when it's like this? All this hollow and lightweight structure is what allows the island not to sink completely into the ocean under its own colossal weight. The infinite weight of Mauna Loa actually creates a fold in the Earth's crust that causes the surrounding ground to rise, like a giant buoy in a plastic pool. All this incredible geological fluctuation shows us that Earth's engineering hides secrets where we least expect them. But if nature can create such massive illusions underground, what happens when humans build their own fantasies of wealth? There's an urban place where ostentation hides a completely unbelievable and bizarre reality. Click on this video now to discover the truth about Brazil's most luxurious city in 10 minutes.